to order for May. The first, this is being recorded. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
And any comment? There's none.
We do have a quorum.
Yes, you're right. I should have mentioned. We do have a quorum of 3 of the 5 board members. So, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes, Craig Child, who was on the budget committee, is decided to join us for the board meeting. So, do you have any comments at this point?
I do not.
All right. Board questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. Review of the minutes of April 17th, 2025. Budget and regular board meeting minutes. Motion to approve the minutes. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I did not see anything in the minutes that I wanted to change.
Okay. There's no further discussion. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The financial statements for April 30th, 2025. Motion to accept the financial statements.
I so agree.
Second,
I'll second that.
discussion.
Does it seem like we have a low number of connections this year? So there's only had 9 so far.
Page 3. So the slow months are that part of the winter, the early year anyway.
Well, we have, there's permits, they just started, so they haven't paid it. There will be more coming in, I think up at, Clear Edge, I think there's 2 or 3. Citadel building out on that, but, I think it's the Poland building, up, so I don't know how fast that will. But there are several.
Yeah, it's about half the number it's been in the previous years that I've been aboard. So it just seems surprising.
They just haven't got started on their project.
I did notice that some of the projects we knew about have shown up in the statements.
Right, if there's no further comment, all in favor of accepting the financial statements, say aye.
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 Aye. Board order.
What is the hazardous waste that we send to Clean Earth Environment?
Old, paint, different petroleum products. One of the big ones are fluorescent lights, think about light bulbs. Those are hazardous, you can't just throw those away. And because we're industrial, we have to pay, we have to pay free for household.
UV parts are expensive.
So basically what you see on that is after they've made their maintenance and repairs, so where usually what you see on that check is when we restock
Yeah.
the parts that were used.
So, and you had mentioned to me that every 6 months they come in and look at the system.
They can then do maintenance on it. If you look at the top of page 2, check 19348, KN Electrical and Solar. That's the electrician that came in and this will be reimbursable from insurance. This is one of my turn in. This is where we had to have all the CN lights changed out.
Yeah.
Even the ones that didn't get knocked out by sewer, they had to all be changed.
Sure, I'm glad that's behind it.
Oh, we're not done yet.
Sure will be glad when that's
For the most part, the pump station's up working 100%.
Yeah.
The last large check you'll see will be the 155,000 probably in July, August, when the new pump shows up. But that'll be the end of it at that point. Oh, you asked me the other day about the cable Houston bill. That was the easements around the pump station.
Okay.
Makes it tough because they don't bill us every month. So you have to go back and look to see what they actually do.
Now, one of you two is supposed to say a white wastebasket, $212, but nobody asked that.
I was just looking at that.
No, it wasn't trimmed in gold. When you put the invoices into our system, it will take like the first invoice, so the first invoice was like a $12 waste basket. But it was from Rosenberg, so it was materials that we used in other parts. But since you only have that much room, as you can see,
I guess the first time.
the computer puts on there pretty much the first invoice that's entered.
See, I thought it was made out of gold and painted over white.
Well, I'm glad to know that waste baskets don't cost that much.
It's not Department of Defense, it's not $5,000 hand, $10,000 on the phone.
Well, it's a $10 waste basket, and that was $202 worth of requisition fee. Reprogram workstation phones. That wasn't cheap.
Had to, well, no, because they have to drive over from Vancouver,
Yeah.
but we had, one of the other phones, the new phone has been sitting here for almost a year and not working. We couldn't get it onto our IT and couldn't get it to work. So what we did was we just, took ties and we had, put together a list of stuff and then we just brought them over at once to take care of several items. Because as you can see, it's the cost for travel is quite a bit.
Yeah. I'll have to drive away. Thanks for answering the question.
You satisfied?
Yes.
Okay. The next item is the district report.
Treatment plant's running well within permit limits, as you can see, down at 0 on suspended solid, which is real good. I have not had a return call from the Netarts Water District to discuss what I'm pushing for the IGA, so we know that we're gonna pay to use the hydrants out there. And
You're gonna call him again?
yeah, call them again. I keep getting told that they'll call me, the new manager will call me back that afternoon. This has gone on for several months and now weeks.
Last month, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And the only thing I got from their office manager, well, they don't understand why we need one. It's because I don't know what you guys are gonna charge. Especially when you refer to a tap fee of $50 every time you consider a tap every time you open the hydrant and close it. Well, we may open and close that hydrant doing collection work out there 10 times a day. Like you get pretty expensive on your collection. So we just need to know what they're gonna charge us. And for some reason, they do not want to address it. They made in their statement in their letter to us, the reason they changed or doubled our rates, put us at full rates instead of half, was because they didn't recognize a handshake agreement versus something in writing. I'm just asking for something in writing. I'm not dictating to them what they can charge. I just want to know, so the board knows when you see the invoice, what it was for and why it cost what it costs.
There's a high probability that they're a little overwhelmed with all the changes in personnel and all. Just saying.
They started it.
I know.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to protect the district and the ratepayers, and to keep the rates down, we have to know what we need to budget for. That's too wild of a number.
So when's the next time you need to flush whatever? When use the water?
It'll probably, because Netarts needs the most collection work that Oceanside has. So it will probably be late summer is what I'm thinking that they will probably be scheduled for sometime, but right now I'm not gonna schedule it until I know what we have to pay.
Right.
And I can't wait for them to all of a sudden send us an invoice with not knowing what it's gonna be. The last thing they received was not outrageous. It was $189. It wasn't much. But I can't depend on them to stay with that type of thing. So I am gonna request that they bring one of their meters out, and if they're gonna charge us per 1,000, then they need to put their meter on it and charge us for our usage. And then also what they're gonna charge to allow us or them to open the hydrant. Their excuse was that it costs money to send their people out to open the hydrant. And they've never come out and opened for us before. And I've been doing it for almost 30 years. I know how to open and close a water hydrant. But if they want their own people to do it, then we need to get a flat charge for the day or something.
At what point do we have our lawyers send them a letter?
I think that what we need to do is first the board agree that we need to do an IGA and have him do a draft IGA. Or review it, send that draft IGA to them through us, not through the lawyer. I mean, we don't want to look like we're, throwing spears at them, which we're not. And then have them review it at their board meeting, decide how to run it.
So When do we do that if we continue to get no response from them? How long do we?
It's in my district report, because that's what I want to talk to the board about. How much longer do you want me to keep trying to have this discussion with? Because I guarantee if I talk to the manager, it's gonna have to go to their board.
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to say interpretation, translation between what we request and what gets translated to their board. So I think if it's in writing, it's right there, there's nothing to dispute it. I'm not gonna, I don't advise we put costs in there. They need to fill in what costs, and then we need to review that.
The timing should be in.
Yes. So,
I mean. Right.
yeah, I can have the lawyer draft up. I mean, I gave them nothing there.
Well, to begin with, let's make a motion to do an RGA,
Okay.
and then
Oh,
then the next step would be.
yeah.
A draft.
Can we back up for just a moment? So according to this, you made the contact to them on April 15th, right?
Yes.
I think.
Mhm.
Okay, and then they were gonna get back to you.
Mhm.
So you're still waiting for that April 15th call. So should we call them one more time, or should we just start working on an IGA?
So
I don't.
it's
That's
my understanding that there was communication prior to April. You went there once.
I talked to their board chair for a few minutes back in, I think it was November perhaps. And then I didn't hear anything. In January, I contacted him, and then he said, oh, we're working on things. And then it came back, I think the following month, we're gonna charge you like any residential customer, period, end of discussion.
So it's now been more than 6 months and we don't have a resolution.
Right, and I didn't specifically say in that very brief discussion, I said, we need to sit down. I would like to sit down with you or whoever you want to have represent you. And Dan would be there, and perhaps your water master or whoever could be there, and we could talk about what we need to do. I didn't say specifically that it needs to concern opening and closing the hydrant or flush downs. But I said, we need to sit down and talk about it, because at that point I was thinking, it still makes sense to me for some of our pump stations that don't use any water, not to be charged the full rate, like put up in the Capes, for instance, like, as an example.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me, but that was not in my discussion with their board chair. It was a 2-minute discussion. Yeah, we'll be in touch. And he was reluctant. He said, I really don't want to do anything in writing. And we'll talk, or I'll call you back sometime after the first of the year.
How do you suppose they don't want to do anything in writing?
I have no idea.
They've had different things going on as far as employees, board members.
But it would protect them to have something that wasn't a target, just like.
I think when were you talking to Dave?
This was the board chair.
Oh, the board chair.
The board chair.
But you have to remember how this started. We had gone out as usual, like we've done the last 20-some years, and got permission of what hydrant to use to fill the jet truck so we could go clean it, inspect sewer lines. After we'd already started the work, and they came out and told us which hydrant to use. Later on, a board member came out there, and I don't know if he wanted to stop and talk to the operators, but then we received an invoice and they wanted an estimated amount of gallons we use, which we always give to them. We estimate. We don't go by, we don't have a meter to meter it. So we estimate about what we put in the truck.
How big the truck is.
Yeah, and we always go a little higher than if we think that we actually build the truck. And then, so we gave that to them, then we received an invoice on that. Plus an explanation that it's considered a tap every time you open a hydrant, and it's a $50 fee for every time you open a hydrant. Well, thinking, okay, well, we opened it 8 times that day. And I couldn't get them to commit on the phone, what are you gonna charge us? But we got the invoice for 1 tap and whatever gallons we have to pay. But
Have you had any communication with Jeff lately about what they came up with?
no,
Fire district?
I was hoping he'd be here tonight so we could discuss that.
Right.
Because I believe that if they're going to charge us per gallon for water, it has to be metered by law. You can't estimate usage. You have to, if you're gonna charge by gallon, then that's what they have to put a meter on.
Well,
And I did have that discussion with Jeff.
right. Here's where I'm at with this. We could go round and round and round about what they're gonna do or not do. We don't know.
Good.
But we do know is that in late, August, that we'll be using a lot of water. So we need this agreement to start this agreement so that we can put a letter together. Not that we'll do that now. The first thing is to get the agree to put this agreement together. So let's do that. That's what I
I
reckon.
think step 1.
So I move that we initiate the process of drafting with Netarts water
Through our council.
through our council.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? If there's none,
So just to be clear, council will draft it and then that'll come back to the board.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
And then that'll be before it goes.
Yes. You still need to
And
look
so-
at the draft.
So we will see it probably next.
So if we can add to your motion, a time,
To be reviewed at the June board meeting.
okay, good. The draft.
all right.
Secondary question, now that we've started that process, if they do contact us in the meantime, how does that influence what we're doing?
Still would need an IGA.
Was still-
Yeah.
Maybe I'll.
We just tell them that we're putting that together.
It might change the draft that we send them.
What I could envision is the only change would be is they would give us numbers what they have to charge. And then we can have that clear with the drafts.
Yeah, they may want to change some language in it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
It's not gonna happen until we kickstart it to happen.
Right.
That's how I look at it. So
Yeah,
we're starting.
Okay, sounds good. We need to vote on that?
Yes.
yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Say aye. Aye.
Okay, on the pump stations, the new control panel at Ocean Highlands has been installed. The new generator still has not been installed.
And that's here.
Yeah, Ocean Highlands pump station. Yeah.
It's been delivered.
The control panel is installed, the generator is sitting out in the shop. We've had that for a few months now, but scheduling the electrician, and all that to be in there. Everybody seems to be booked out. So we still have to complete that. The main pump station, the catastrophic failure, the pump station's been completely, repaired. The only thing that we're lacking, at this point, we do not have a spare pump. So everything else seems to be up and running. It's been disinfected. All the electrical is done. We also got the new roll-up door put in. It's powered. It's done. The only thing I'm looking at the main pump station now is putting the camera on the inside of it. We've had more than one failure in there. And so we need to upgrade our cameras anyways because they're 15 years old and they're starting to fail. They're starting to go dark, and so we don't have any real, our security's not as good as it should be. But you'll see that next month. I should have quotes for all that.
If we had a failure before we had a backup pump, what would the consequences be?
So we can lose up to 2 more pumps and keep the pump station operational.
But then we wouldn't have a backup with the pump that had taken
So
over.
if any of the pumps fail, they stay fixed.
Right.
And, we'll pull them and we'll send them in to have them repaired. But we can lose up to 2 more pumps and still keep the pump station operational.
You have a plan to replace that spare?
It's on order.
Okay.
It's already on order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys approved that last month.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's on order. There's still 16 to 18 weeks out, so we're looking mid-July at
Yeah,
the earliest before that.
Trying to get in my mind.
Yeah.
What would happen if we had another failure?
So we have redundancy.
Yeah.
NOSD goes a little bit above, and we keep spare pumps for every pump station. The unique pump stations are the 4-plex that run 4 pumps, and they run in 2 pump trains. So it takes 2 pumps in a row to push up here. The way our pump stations are designed, we could lose another pump, still keep it going, but if we lose a third, and we only have 4, we're down. And that, these are not, as you have found out, these are not off the shelf pumps.
No.
And it's not like some of the smaller ones we have where we can get a hold of them and they can get it in a short amount of time. These are specialty made pumps and colors, so they have to be ordered ahead. So I don't anticipate that kind of failure.
No, I like the fact that we have redundancy.
So it looks like we're right about $175,000 total damage, and it is reimbursable. I will be sending, we've already paid some of the invoices you'll see next month, but the insurance company want to get us the paid invoices reimbursed.
What do you think the timeline on that is?
For the reimbursement?
Yeah.
It sounds like will cut us a check as soon as I can get them. Right now, what I'm working on with the guys is we have to get all of our hours together. We'll also be reimbursed for all of the labor that we spent also getting this pump station back up and going, which is going to be substantial.
Can we go back to Ocean Highlands for just a second?
Sure.
Do you have I know it's not scheduled yet, but do you have a sense of when the generator will be installed?
I was hoping for mid this month, but as you can see, it took us longer to get the other control panel because we had to get Xylem and Tag together on the same schedule to install it and do the startup. So now I'm working on with Tag Electrician, we'll schedule the installation because that's 2 other companies we're dealing with to put the new generator.
So same question.
I'm thinking mid-June, to be honest with you. I'm hoping the 1st of June, but hopefully we have it in before the next board meeting.
Okay.
One of the problems, and Dan is welcome to correct me, is that it's not a pull it out, drop it in, because they changed the configuration of the refueling the tank and a few other things in it. So there needs to be a lot of reconfiguring of the location to fit the new unit.
Of course.
Of course.
Well, it's a new design, it has to meet the newer codes, it has to meet the newest emissions, it has to meet, so it's completely reconfigured than what we have in place. Treatment plant's running good. The capital improvement project on the Avalon pump station, it is in design right now. I've got about 4 or 5 sheets I just received to review. And where it's currently at is a draft where the line potentially gonna lay, so we'll know what properties are affected. And then what I'm working on now with them is pump station design.
Is it gonna be similar to the existing pump stations that we have?
It'll be similar, yeah. It would probably look more like, Ocean Highlands pump station style, something like that.
Okay.
If you drive through Ocean Highlands, you'll see
Yeah, I
it.
drove by it.
Yeah.
I
It'll be similar.
go in it.
Yeah, right now I'm working on the components and the wet well. I'm not really looking at the building yet or stuff like that. Number 5, NCC, the HVAC for the controls. They're looking at somewhere August before they want to come out. They have the controls, they don't have the unit yet, and they would rather just come out one trip. So I told them to would be fine in August to come out. Price is the same. They're not nothing's changed there.
Before winter.
Yes, before winter would be nice. For Aaron. And so that's all I have on that. I did update the operations summary. You'll see I updated that on the 12th. I probably will update it sooner when we get the new generator and other projects that we have working on right now. And right now we're experiencing extremely low flow. Extreme.
And a lot of rain.
A lot of rain on people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't normally run under 100,000 gallons a day, but we have been.
I'm trying to remember. I think, did you tell me once upon a time that when you have extremely low flows, you have to either add water or some, you need to do some adjustments to the system?
So what we do in the flows and loadings, we have to, there's 2 parts. You have your hydraulic, the water coming in, and then you have the concentration in the water, which is the pounds in of BOD. So we can go with the low hydraulic flow, but we can't when the pounds of loading come in. If it drops too low, then we have to shut down a basin. So we're running on 2 basins right now. We sometimes get stuck doing this, usually midsummer sometimes, where we have to then shut down a basin and run on one. It's hard to do because some of it's only for us a short period of time, a month. And then it goes back up. Then we get into storm seasons and we have to have 2 basins at least to take the hydraulic in of it, the treatment.
So as we get into the heavy tourist season, will that help very much? Okay.
It's easier to adjust up than it is to have to try to adjust the treatment plants, microorganisms down. Because if it jumps back up, you can't rebuild as fast. You know, you can't build your inventory of microorganisms back up as fast.
Mhm.
But you can see that at the top, the results are good with a 0 TSS and only 3 on our DOD. The treatment plant's running really well.
Is that it?
That's what I have.
You mentioned, somewhere, I don't remember where, that at some point you want to put manual transfer switches on other stations. Do we have a timeline on that?
No, we don't on that. I want to address that when we update the facility plan.
Okay.
We did get them at our critical stations.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Next on the agenda is old business. Avalon Pump Station project. We've sort of already discussed that.
yeah,
So next topic is the Connex site update. So, you want to start that or you want me to?
well, you can start it. It's your guys' project. I've got quite a few hours in it.
See the
I
abuse
would be
of
more comfortable if the board knows that I spend a lot of hours on. They approved me to work on that project.
Okay, so, the Connex box from the state is here and it's set in the back behind, our large
That's the emergency supplies.
There's nothing in it, it's locked up. The supplies should be here, what, the next week or two,
That's
Right.
what Josh was telling me, yes.
something like that. But there's been quite a bit back and forth between the county, community development and permits and their inspectors and the people over in, Cape Mears, who also received one of these containers, are just having a heck of a time. The box, very quickly, the box for them is considered to be commercial. And so the permit, the overall construction permit is $1,000 from the county. But what we have found out is that the two connexes that were received 2 years ago by the county, emergency supplies, but not heating or dehumidifying, that are out at the port facility, no permits were ever obtained at all. So it's just kind of an interesting sideline. And the county has basically said, oh, we didn't even know about it in community development. And in other words, and if nobody raises the issue, we're not going to raise the issue, is what my understanding is. So I don't know where that's all going, but in talking to Dan, the thought is that, and the attitude to be taken is that to protect the sanitary district, to protect well, let me back up a bit. I think the general feeling is that we still want to have the Connex in Oceanside, and this is probably the best place is up here at the sanitary district. And also going back to that original thought that, yes, it was a grant that Jerry Keene wrote and we were eventually awarded, but in my view, that Jeff, our fire chief, would have significant input that if some of the supplies were needed and it needed to go to Netarts, depending upon the greatest need.
Mhm.
You know, if that's where the need is, that's where it goes. And if it's both communities, then the fire chief can be the arbiter of where the supplies are used. Because, and Dan feels this way, and I understand it, that if any money is put into this project to connect up the electrical, that's money that is equally coming from the Netarts community as it's coming from the Oceanside community. So
If the district pays for
if the district pays for it, and you can go ahead and clarify, but my understanding, it makes sense, is that Dan feels that his ultimate responsibility is to protect the sanitary district, protect its electrical systems, that nothing from the Connex box in its electrical systems causes problems for him, or that this box in a gusty wind of 80 miles an hour doesn't tip over and damage something that belongs to the sanitary district. So with that, I'll hand over to you. So your comments.
the requirements for this Connex box, which is, if you try to compare it to what the port has, you're comparing apples to oranges. It's not the same thing. This one comes with generators, comes with propane tanks, it comes with electrical, it comes with a lot of stuff. Those are just boxes out there. Okay, so there is a requirement for anchoring it because it is over 120 square feet. It's 160 square feet. Where it sits is the most logical place to put it. It's closest to power. Our control panels operate the sanitary district and all its operations up here. We need to put in something more robust than, say, just the Connex box would require. We can't have issues with it backfeeding or breaking something in one of our control panels, and this one, control panel B, which carries a lot of power out to some of the equipment. So I have the engineers looking at that, so it would be upgraded more than, say, the actual requirement would be to operate just that little Connex box. We're gonna put electrical power out there, 240 volts, so they don't need 240 volts, but we do at that end of the treatment plant. So I think that we should run the power out to it. If the Connex box ever goes away, we still own the power, we still have use of the electrical system out there. Just that 25 feet that would go to the Connex box that we wouldn't normally put in. That's on the power. Just so you know, the power is between $11,000 and $15,000 to put in. We've got to cut asphalt, we've got to run special conduit that is coated to withstand the weather from corrosion and stuff here. The second thing is, even if the county didn't require it to be anchored, I'm requiring it to be anchored. I can't have that Connex box flip over, roll down the hill, short out the power or anything like that. I've seen semi trucks here full of equipment get blown over when we were building this place, damaged everything in it. So we need to protect the district. I want, and we did get the minimal from the county, what we could put for 4 anchors. Our structural engineer does not agree with that. So they would be a little bit more robust. I'm looking at an estimate right now. I don't think it would be that high, but between engineering, the permits that we would have to fill out, and the design for the anchors, you're looking at around, I'm going to guess around 13,000 for that. But if the Connex box ever goes away, we can put our own storage out there and we can now use it. And we own it, okay?
So it's about 25,000 total.
Yeah,
So you say 220?
240. That's still, just like you would run for a dryer, well, that's the size we need for running for running a large welder out there.
Okay. But anything that's 110,
So there will be a disconnect box that goes out to the Connex box that would be manually disconnected. So think of it as also a break point. If something was to happen to the box, something in the box was to short out, it would go to that disconnect box. And that would be your fail safe not to come back to the treatment plant's control panels, electrical control panels.
yeah, but what my question is, if you wanted to run something lights or whatnot in the box, 110 is what?
Yeah, so the requirement for the box is only 120 volts. That's it. I think it's 60 amp. We'll probably run 100 amp service out there so we can run larger equipment. And that box also has a manual disconnect switch on it also, so you could run their generator. Because it comes with a generator and electrical panel on the outside. What we need is a point, we'll run the power out. They'll basically tap into it and only take part of that power. I think the amperage draw on the paperwork we've received from Fixed Resilience, it's only like 10 amps. If we were to plug a welder into it, we're gonna need 30 to 50 amps.
Yeah, so, okay, so the money that's gonna take to do this, including your time, right? Yeah, it needs to be figured in here. Has anyone contacted emergency management and told them that this is a project that we're trying to do?
I don't believe Randy has been, he knows that we have the box and that we gotta get it connected up. But as far as the specifics go, I don't believe he has those specifics.
Well, I think he should have.
Okay,
And the fire department is more in the venue of the fire department than it is the sewer district as far as the safety thing. So emergency management, Sonoma County needs to work with Jeff to see if they can help with whatever needs to happen here.
You mean as far as financing it or
Whatever,
whatever?
you know, whatever blockages there are. And that's who is that a voted in position? I don't know. If it is.
No, I think he's appointed.
Okay, well, anyways, that's just common sense as far as I'm concerned.
So we will invoice them for, like there was, $450 worth of, hours for the electrical, our electrical design, company for the portion that worked for just for the Connex box. I think, West Tech's portion that would just involve that Connex box was another 336 to date for hours.
Uh-huh.
So,
But it sounded to me like the 25,000 was stuff that we were paying for because we will own it. And
we will own it. It'll be all the materials.
and we might actually want to use it for
Yes.
ourselves at some point.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So it doesn't make sense that we would necessarily tell emergency management about that because that's not something we're charging them. Right?
Yeah, I don't have the cost though for the 25 feet to get it over to the Connex box. I have
That would be-
costs.
There's costs that will be accrued from getting this whole system figured out, right?
I've pretty much got it, all the cost estimates and the basic engineering, which that, some of that is free when they come up with a cost estimate. So, we still have to hire the electrician. There'll be no more engineering electrical. He's got the design. What the electrician will do is go in, the electrician has to get the permit from the county, take in what he's, you know, the design he's gonna build. And then we would pay the electrician directly. And then we can break down in that cost if there's anything that the, I don't know, what is it? It's a nonprofit, you guys, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Oceanside Protection Society.
Yeah. So some of that will have to be broke out. But we will pay the electrical contractor to install all of it, repair the asphalt, they'll dig the hole, trench and repair the asphalt, and that type of stuff.
In terms of the anchors, paying for that.
We would pay for that because they have to be put in a certain spot where it clears our force main and it clears any drainage pipes we have out there. And then,
So,
And it's also a platform.
and it has to be rated just like this place is rated for wind
Right,
and for, earthquake and stuff like that.
right.
so when you say we own it,
We own
Not
this,
the box.
not the box, but the landing pad that the box is sitting on. We could put, if the box ever went away, we could put something else out
We
there.
could put our own box and storage out there for our collection parts and things.
Okay.
I honestly don't, as far as I know, and Craig, correct me, that the idea, the theory is that there would be receipts for the work that needs to be done for setting the box and the electrical hookups, and those would be sent to the state and the state would reimburse. Is that what?
Yes, that's I don't know the specifics and what the dollar limits are for that. That's something that they've been kind of vague about. They want us to
Right.
submit the estimates to them and then they'll look at it and provide us an answer. I think what Dan is talking about is, well, if the Oceanside Protection Society funded that through this grant, then the OPS owns that. That becomes perhaps problematic down the line. And so you're trying to figure out what's the best way to do this, thinking about what we need today versus what you might need in the future. And am I kind of getting that right?
What the biggest thing is the electrical that because that's why the court doesn't have electrical.
Mhm.
Is I have to make sure that any electrical that's run out there
Mhm.
is more robust than what you would just require for that box.
Right.
Okay. At the same time, we might as well put in the power that we want that in the treatment plant anyway.
Mhm.
You'll just get to tap in on that power. So this isn't simply with the county requirements codes. This isn't simply just running an extension cord to it. It's a little more in depth on what that Connex box, because it comes with all kinds of stuff. It comes
All
with
kinds of what?
all kinds of stuff. It comes with a year paid of satellite uplink, Starlink. I think
Starlink,
it is.
yes.
It comes with 4 security cameras, which I believe can be integrated into our security system. Those 4 security cameras. So there is some benefit that the district can get out of it as well. But the biggest is the electrical for me. Even if there was no Connex box, we ran that electrical, that would still be on us. If it was out there, they would be able to tap into it.
So, now, were you guys, I mean, is there gonna be something written up on paper that who owns what?
Well, it would be like with the,
Because
it would
if
be
you,
like GS.
let's say, you know, you retire, right? Well, then
So
who owns it? What is it?
this is our property.
Right.
Property belongs to NLSD. Just like the fire department's got their end of that shop, they own that end of the shop, they don't own the ground under it. I want this designed so it does not interfere with our underground force mains and piping and infrastructure. It's got to stay clear of that. You can't just drop it off and hope for the best, okay? So then we'll have engineered drawings so that when I'm gone and Brian and these guys are gone, they're gonna know what's out there if we ever have to come in and do an upgrade or do maintenance to this treatment plant. We need those plant drawings updated to reflect whatever work we do out there. That includes electrical
With date?
with dates, and then those, because we're public wastewater treatment plant, we have to submit those to DEQ as changes to the treatment plant or the facility. I don't want to say just treatment plant, but it's to the facility.
But you're right. I believe there will have to be an agreement between the different players, including the Protection Society, the sanitary district, as far as laying it out, who's responsible for what and how.
And what we will need that very soon. Because of the money exchanges between the state and the community.
Yeah,
Right.
if we can't get that until we know what the cost.
Yeah,
I believe the state wants invoices. And if I read that paperwork correctly, you gather up your invoices, you send them in, but you're not guaranteed to get them all back. It states in there, they review it. And I've dealt with grant money before. You don't always get 100%.
Right. I don't know that we need invoices from the conversations that I've had with them. They want quotes. And then that will be worked into the grant agreement, and they will reimburse us based on the quotes that they have seen and approved.
Maybe so. I've never seen that before. They
Okay.
usually, if it's a reimbursement, they want paid invoices. That's my experience with the feds and the state.
I mean, I've talked specifically with the grant coordinator there, and that was what she told me was that because of the timeline and the lateness of all of this, they would deal with quotes on this. Now, whether they actually will or not, I don't know. I don't have any experience in that regard.
So then wait for that. This will not be done by the
which is.
There's no way we can complete this by the end of June.
Right. And I don't think that we're going to require that we are done with all of the work, but we need to be done with the paperwork.
Okay.
That's why they're willing to deal with quotes, because we had 3 months to work on this basically.
And we've lost over a month.
Right. Right.
So the county's still gonna require, county planning is still gonna require permits. Okay,
When do you think it will be done? What's your estimated timeline?
if the board approves it right now and tells me to go get this done, I could probably get it done by June. At least I know I can get the electrical, because I can get the electrical contractor out here. So we've already paid, at least one invoice, I think, to West Tech. But those were the ones that just dealt with the Connex portion of the rest.
Yeah, I'm thinking based upon what you said, Jim, even though we want it to be more robust than what the minimum is that they seem to require, you can always put in what it's gonna cost us and see what happens with the reimbursement. And even for the part that's, you're talking about,
I can have the quotes back. I've talked to West Tech. They can have us the estimate by the first of June for the structural portion. We pretty much already have what we need for.
So you were just, I heard you saying that if the board agrees to this tonight, then you can move forward.
Yeah.
And you've got enough. What would that look like? What would that motion look like?
Well, we're looking at up to $25,000 for both the structural and the electrical.
Maybe the discussion is where did that money come from?
Well, it would come out of our capital resource. That's what that is.
And that would be under what kind of like improvement? Or,
It'd be under upgrades.
okay, and we have
So,
that.
yeah, so
we have
if
that
you
all.
look at your budget, yeah,
Right.
we have almost $500,000 in that fund.
so
So I'd say this, we don't leave these guys hanging.
So, yeah, I move that we,
I mean, I
Now,
feel
we
like,
have no control over how fast the county gives us.
yeah, but
that's the only-
you gotta get things rolling.
Yeah, but I think I can have the electrical rolling in a week.
are there, parts needed for anchors that would be problematic to get?
So.
Okay.
It's anything that I envision right now we would run up against is getting a contractor with an open schedule enough to come do it.
Well, it's Sonic Tube and Siemens.
Yeah, well, these footings will be a little larger than that because they have to go deeper. We have 7 feet clearance from the force main, but I did not have it on the force main. So we'll have to survey that in to assure. So that's why what the engineers are. Once I approve it, once you approve me to do it, I'll have them make sure that work is done.
Okay, so,
So the Connex box might move a little. So if you guys know that.
Mhm.
A couple of feet either direction.
Yeah.
so
it's
you're
not-
comfortable with what we have discussed here?
Yes.
I mean, as far as making a motion to move forward?
Mhm.
So,
You want to make a motion?
I don't know, it's so complicated, I know I can't right now, but go ahead.
my only question is, if the state does not reimburse to the level we want to, we will be paying out of capital fund for something that's 20 feet short of the cottage, right?
Well, no, right now, it's all included in the price I just told you, because we have to pay
Okay.
the electrician
All right,
for his work. So it will be completed, but he will break out that section over on how much it costs to do that section. That's what we'll invoice
Mhm.
the state for, or you'll invoice the state for, that we'll get to,
well,
however.
we would probably like to invoice the state for the whole thing.
Well, you can certainly try to invoice for the whole thing.
I think if I can add a little bit to this, I mean, what I understand is that the state will reimburse Oceanside Protection Society because they are the grant recipient.
Mhm.
My conversations with Jerry, who unfortunately is not here, is that OPS cannot re-grant anything to another entity because we were exploring that with propane tank.
Which I can do that. We would have to invoice you.
Right, but I'm just saying there might be a conversation that the state's uncomfortable with if we say we're submitting this electrical work for reimbursement, but NOSD is the actual owner of the end project. They might say that's,
Ever gonna be the end owner.
sorry,
We would be the owner of the infrastructure, not
Correct.
the box.
Yeah, we're not gonna,
no, but that's what I'm saying, is the cost of the infrastructure that we would then be going to the state to say, would you please reimburse us for this $25,000?
Correct.
They might say, no, we're not going to reimburse you for that. That's owned by NOSD, not by the grant recipient.
Yeah, but
well, then we can't do this.
the system could not be,
We can't do it.
the system.
That's
could
why
not
you need
be-
Jerry here.
Couldn't be hooked up at all
So I don't know,
without the infrastructure.
from my point of view, I don't know why we would invoice for the electrical work that we plan on owning. It sounded to me like we should invoice only for the stuff between the end of down to where that 240 goes and the Connex box, whatever that distance is. That's what we would
I
invoice.
understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but if that money is sloshing around in a state fund to allow for,
It just doesn't seem clean to me that we would not, potentially, we would not end up owning what we want to own unless we pay for the stuff out to the box that we want to own and the anchors that we want to own. We shouldn't invoice for those things if we think we want to own them. It doesn't seem right.
Unless the state is okay with what I just said, they might not be okay with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not here to represent OPS because I'm not a board member of it. Jerry is, and he'd be better able to answer what he's comfortable with.
I think
Okay.
that we need to move forward.
Right.
But maybe we could further discuss the specifics of this as far as any reimbursement is concerned in the future.
Okay.
Does that sound?
So,
Yeah, so what we're authorizing at this point is because the money's got to come from somewhere, however it gets invoiced eventually, we're authorizing a use of our funds to get this project underway
Correct.
and Dan's time.
Yes.
so once I call officially as NOSD, I'm not calling working for you guys, I work for NOSD. Those contractors will be working for us.
Right.
Okay, period. They'll expect to be paid by us,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
How we say, and we'll have the breakdown of how we break the invoice down before the project's even done. But at that point, we should know what was, because this was all triggered by the Connex box.
Right.
Okay, my future view of the electrical out to there wasn't within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, it's moving that up sooner than what we thought. Thing is that we wouldn't be doing probably the Connex box anchors if it wasn't for the Connex box.
Right.
And so they're on the hook for something, but I think we're gonna have
Day.
Yes.
yeah,
And
Okay.
to the people who are giving
Yeah.
OPS money.
yeah, the state or whatever. But the district is authorizing the work from its contract, from its engineers, from its source to design and put this out there.
Which makes sense to me because it's on our property.
And we have to protect our infrastructure. I mean, the big thing is we have to protect ours.
Yeah.
Permits will have to be pulled, for placement, and the permit will be pulled for placing the Connex box, not so much for the actual anchors that'll be part of that process. So we're authorizing our contractors to move forward, not them.
So, can I make a motion?
Yes.
I move that we authorize Dan Mello to start the process of getting the electrical for the Connex box and the anchors for the Connex box at a cost to the district of up to $25,000.
I don't know, if you can give us that number. I mean,
Excuse me?
is that number gonna be close?
The number's gonna be probably less. It's
Well,
less. I think the engineer overestimated asphalt.
I just don't want us to be in a position where we have, nope, we gotta stop because we said 20.
So we start with the electrical,
Okay,
and I know that that's within $2,000 or $3,000.
okay,
Okay. The design won't even be, estimate won't even be done for the mounting pillars out there, the anchors. And I won't even see that until the first, I got an estimate already. Okay, I think it was like $3,500 for engineering and
okay,
up to $10,000 for the anchors.
okay.
So that's a little on the high side, and they said that's probably on the high side.
Not to exceed.
You can do it not to exceed, and if we have to stop and revisit this thing, well,
Okay,
but I think the 25,000 is more than reasonable.
okay, good.
May I ask a question? What about the propane tank?
So the propane tank, my understanding is it's not a priority right now, so you can get it delivered. I would like to sit down with the fire chief and talk about the propane tank.
Okay,
This doesn't sound mandatory to have to put it in, but if it would be beneficial to NOSD and to the fire district, the fire chief and I need to discuss that.
okay. I just wanted to make sure before you put a cap on it that you had thought through whether you needed.
No,
any
I'm
additional
planning on,
permit.
I haven't even got to that. I'm planning on setting that propane tank on
Yeah.
the side.
Okay,
Propane people will own the tank.
no, actually, it's a tank that's being provided as a part of the grant.
But it's being provided by Suburban. No Suburban here. There's no pump to fill the little bottles. It has to be close to electrical. We have a fuel system out there. I do not want the propane tank within 40 feet of the Connex box. If somebody uses that propane tank and they leave it on, and all explosives away from the treatment plant. And that I won't even compliment on. Just want to set it up.
Right.
So that conversation clearly has to involve Jeff.
That clearly has to involve the fire chief.
Okay, so we're gonna vote?
What you're voting on tonight is to move forward on the electrical and move forward on the anchoring. That's it. Not,
Was that motion? Oh, all right, from other people's perspective.
She's the one that's gotta write it down.
And did you second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's no more discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Now,
and I assume that includes me that, I think,
Yeah.
spending my time at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I included that.
and one thing that they hit up Cape Mears with is they need a general contractor. With, what is it, CC something another?
Yeah,
Some,
the Oceanside Water District did put in for the permit for that slab down there. The problem is the contractor they listed was that fixed resilience, and they've made it
Yeah.
clear to me they are not the actual.
so I just want it clear among us that Dan is not the general contractor for this project, if that becomes an issue with county development. He's got enough on his plate.
Well, who signs the permits are contractors, not any of us.
Yeah.
Now, I'll sign on the bottom as the public utility,
Mhm.
but it's the contractors that have to pull the permits.
Any further questions?
We got enough to get it rolling.
Yeah,
If there's more involved, we'll find out next month.
exactly.
Comments not about the comments box, but don't forget that next month's meeting is not on Thursday. It is on Wednesday, the 18th,
Correct.
because we are
When's Juneteenth? The 19th?
19th.
If it still exists.
Yes, so Thursday is a holiday, and so we have to change it. You guys authorized to change it to the 18th, which is Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay.
When you
Any,
send out the packets, does that go to everybody? Or just me?
What?
On Tuesday when I get my packet,
Oh, everybody gets, yeah, everybody gets.
maybe you should just in bold letters at the front of the packet, right? You know, don't forget Wednesday,
Wednesday.
5:30. No, 5 o'clock.
It wouldn't hurt if you
So
were
it's
to call,
5:30.
wouldn't hurt to call them.
Okay.
yeah, I think it's merely approval of the budget as part of the board meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I
I
mean,
have one question as the board members. Do you want me to change the Connex box and put it in a district report from now on versus having it on the agenda, or do you just want to keep it on the agenda and I can give a separate report on it?
Well, I think to keep it on the agenda.
It would keep it separate though.
Yeah, let's keep it on the agenda.
Okay. Any new business?
Yeah.
Correspondence. No executive session. And we're adjourned at 6:42.